Hi, I'm Dr. Caroline Leaf, and welcome to my podcast, Cleaning Up the Mental Mess. In today's podcast, I'm going to talk to you about processing speed, which is how fast we process information and then make decisions based on that information. So I'm going to talk about what it is and how we can improve it and all those good things that will just increase our intelligence and make us help to clean up the mental mess more efficiently. But before we begin, if you want to listen to my podcast ad-free with some bonus content and live Q&As, then subscribe to my Patreon account. You can find the link and details in the show notes. And as always, this podcast is for educational purposes and is not medical advice. If you need medical advice, please contact the appropriate medical professional. So let's talk now about processing speed and why that's important. So basically, what is processing speed? Well, it's the time that we take to take in information effectively enough to be able to understand it, which means to make sense of it, and then use that information in whatever way we need to make decisions, whatever we say, whatever we do. So if that is efficient, then we are more efficient at decision making. But having said that, I just want to stress right up front that if your processing speed slows down, it doesn't imply that you're not intelligent or that you're not an intelligent person, because intelligence is something that constantly develops and grows. Contrary to what we were told for many, many years in correct science, and this is really how science goes. We think one thing's right and then we learn more new information and we move forward in science. For many years, intelligence was kind of sold to us as being something fixed and finite. And, once that was your intelligence, well, that's it. I remember when I was at school, we would do, IQ tests, and it would determine whether that person would be intelligent enough to go to university and that kind of thing. Thank goodness we don't really do that anymore. And what we know from intelligence now is that intelligence is constantly developing. So it's almost as though it's actually you are as intelligent as you want to be. So the more you stimulate your mind, the more you stimulate your brain, the more you build your brain, the more you detox your brain, the more you manage your mind, the more you work on things like processing speed, the more efficiently you are going to be developing your intelligence. So it's got a huge amount to do with managing your mind. Therefore, mental speed, let me give you read you a definition, is basically also known as your processing speed, and at its most basic level can be defined as how efficiently we understand information to make it meaningful so that we can use it. And what's so good about mental processing speed, linking to mental speed, linking to intelligence, is that this is not the only measure of cognitive function. There's a whole variety of ways that we look at cognitive function. And the other good thing is that you can improve your mental speed. And the other thing that's also good news is that our mental speed can go up and down because, if you are going through a very stressful time, or you're feeling sick, or you're under any kind of pressure, that will affect your processing speed. So these are all things that we need to realize that it's not the end of the world if your processing speed changes. If there is a consistent pattern that your processing speed is changing or your mental processing is changing, and it feels like you're not able to basically get meaning out of information, you're battling to follow a conversation and you feel like you're just not getting the understanding quick enough, if that becomes a consistent pattern, then that's something you definitely need to watch for, and you can do the techniques that I'm going to tell you about now that are also in my book, Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess, and my app, Neurocycle, and my book, Think, Learn, Succeed. Okay, Think, Learn, Succeed. All these exercises, and there's the Neurocycle app, all will help you with catching those patterns and working on those patterns. So I worked for years with people in my clinical practice, when I practiced as a clinical neuroscientist. I worked for years with people that had problems with mental processing speed due to things like early onset dementia or dementias that were starting, or Alzheimer's, or learning disabilities, or autism, trauma, CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which is when you have damage from sports injuries and that kind of stuff. So it's amazing when you become very deliberate and proactive in developing your mind, then you can catch these periods where maybe your processing speed goes off. Work out what is going on in your environment and your life that's potentially impacting how you're processing, and then work on improving that again. So everything that I teach you, working on detoxing as a lifestyle, spending that 15 to 45 minutes every morning working through the Neurocycle, either from the app or from the book, and doing brain building, in chapter 14 of this book, I have a whole program of, just not a program, but my daily kind of routine of how I fit all these things in, working on thinker moments, all these things that initially you have to learn, sure, but in learning them, you can build your mental processing. But once you know how to do them, when you do them, they're all going to contribute to helping you process information more efficiently. So processing speed is not some magic trick or something that if it goes off for one day, there's something now mentally wrong with you, or that it's a skill that maybe only certain people have. Processing speed does go up and down, as I've been saying, but it is something that you can catch, be aware of, learn to develop and grow, which is really, really fantastic. Okay, so you can measure processing speed. I mean, there are tests of measurement, but any kind of test that measures something like processing speed in one particular instance isn't really going to be a true indication of your potential or how you're functioning. It's going to just pick up where you are at that moment. So if you're in a high moment and a very efficient moment, well, it's going to be great. But if it's low, it's not going to be great. Like, for example, I woke up, I ate something last night that did not agree with me, and it woke me up. And so I was wide awake. My processing speed was like amazing. So I thought, okay, well, I'm wide awake. I may as well get through some work. And I shot through 2 hours of the most amazing mental processing. I was understanding. I was creative. Fell asleep eventually, and I woke up and I started trying to finish the work that I'd started while I was awake, because I needed it for meetings that I was going into today after this podcast. But I couldn't process it. I could see I would read the headline of the news and I had to read it 3 times because I wasn't processing it. And then I tried to pick up on that work, and I realized my mental processing speed dropped off. So if I'd had a test at 2:00 this morning, my processing speed would have been, and my mental speed would have been up there, implying my cognitive functioning and intelligence is like fantastic. And this morning it would have been right down low. So it is in these waves. But what we want to look for is patterns and recognize when we're in a dip with our mental processing, like I was this morning. So I didn't push the working and the preparation I had to do because I knew it was not going to be efficient and I'd get frustrated. So I went and did a workout, had some breakfast, got ready, and then I managed to finish and my processing speed came back up again. So I say this to encourage you, but at the same time, I'm very deliberate and intentional about managing how I take information in, get understanding, and then use that information. I'm deliberate and intentional in my day-to-day moments, and that's why I do so much brain building, where I constantly train my mental processing. Because really, in processing speed, mental processing, all of these are related to us taking in information in a way that we can understand it so that we can use it and we can keep developing that. Some of the benefits of having a faster mental speed are like what I said this morning. I mean, I just like, my mind was just, it was so exciting. I love it when it's like that. I'm sure you've experienced that, where you just read something and there's this insight and you see the link to this, and because I'm creating programs and I'm writing books. And so for my work, there's a tremendous amount of creativity, creating content for podcasts and TikTok. And in my research, I do clinical trials. So I need to be very creative. And I need to think fast and be able to make associations. I need a lot of gamma activity in my brain. And so basically, the benefits of processing speed is that you do that. You get a massive burst of gamma activity. Gamma activity is a frequency in the wave that measures an energy response in the brain. We have the different types of waves. You've heard me talk about these before. You get delta, theta, alpha, beta, gamma, and high gamma, and each play a massively important role. They work together in a very harmonious fashion. And what we see is that when we're in certain states of mind, like in a very high mental processing state, we'll have a very strong burst of gamma activity from the front to the back of the brain and across both sides of the brain. Not an overactive, not like high activity, but the right kind and right level of activity. And that just does this search literally around the brain, pulling up all this information from the non-conscious to the conscious mind. And the non-conscious mind, and we're going to talk about that in a moment, and you can grab this information and you can link it to what you're reading, and there's just this a wonderful sort of mix of things that are happening, and you start seeing things and you write it down, and so it's tremendously beneficial because you feel a lot of sense of achievement, a sense of peace, a sense of a feeling of success. There's a sense of excitement, and you'll get that will release things like anandamide and dopamine and serotonin and noradrenaline, and those hormones will then work with your hormone system and your stress response, and so you get a downstream effect through your entire body. Your telomeres work more efficiently, which are the ends of chromosomes, and which influence cell division. And so you get a tremendous benefit, mind, brain, and body, by stimulating your brain. So processing speed is a huge part of everything that I'm teaching you. Now, I haven't specifically said processing speed on this podcast before, but it is, that's why I wanted to zone in on that and say that you are actively developing your processing speed by all the things that I am teaching you, which is really important to do. So just some pros of having a faster mental speed. One benefit is that you'll be able to, so I'm just going to summarize this, be able to react faster or should I say respond faster. Reaction, we don't want to react, because react means that we haven't considered everything. We haven't really dug into the depths of the non-conscious mind to gather all the data. So we want to respond faster. So it's efficient responding and make decisions that are actually beneficial to either you, your day, your activities, or in general things that happen in life. So if your mental speed is faster, you can be better at planning, problem solving, as well as communicating. You can also learn and retain new information and grow your intelligence at a faster rate. Another benefit working on really improving your mental speed is that it can help you stay mentally sharp every year that you age. Okay, so it's a really excellent way. There's so much research showing that keeping mentally sharp plays a massive role in your mental health and your physical health as you are aging. So if our mental speed slows down, there are cons, and I already highlighted that by the example I gave. And remember, it goes in waves. So when you're at sort of the low end where you're in a dip, then it's hard to concentrate, it's hard to pay attention, it's hard to retain information, it's hard to make good decisions. You become reactive instead of responsive. So kind of the opposite of all the good things. And if it's a continual pattern and it's happening more and more, that's disrupting function, that's when we need to pay attention, because it could then be an early sign or an early marker of the dementias. So, but that's not, I don't want you to panic and think, oh my gosh, because research shows that if you start worrying about getting Alzheimer's, just the worrying about it will increase your chance of getting Alzheimer's by 63%. Okay, so don't worry about the dementias. What you want to do is be proactive and learn all these things I'm teaching you, and be proactive about brain building every day, about detoxing every day, about giving yourself grace in the moment, about allowing yourself to feel the feelings and feel the whatever's going on, but then moving through it. And recognizing, one more tool in your toolbox is recognizing that you have ups and downs in processing speed. So I'm going to say it again, ups and downs are normal, but if there's a consistent pattern that seems to be increasing and getting worse and disrupting, that could be an early sign of something going on in your brain, and it definitely then needs to be doing all these things that I'm telling you even more, but that's when you would be a very good idea to go and seek medical advice, to go to a neurologist, get scans done, etc. Okay, so here, let's now talk about some tips of how we could improve our mental speed. Okay, because the mind and brain are neuroplastic, so the brain is changed by the mind. You've heard me say that so often, okay, which is really great news. This also means we can get better at improving our mental speed. So our mind is just always ready for growth, and so is your brain. You are just geared for constant growth, which is what I said in the beginning of this podcast, that intelligence is an ongoing developmental thing. And you're as intelligent as you want to be, which is great. So basically, this also means we can get better at improving our mental speed, and we can use what is called directed neuroplasticity. So everything I teach you is directed neuroplasticity, where you are intentional and very deliberate about self-regulating. So to make healthy decisions, we need a lot of blood flow, oxygen and energy flow through the brain, specifically across both hemispheres, and a lot in the frontal lobe. And basically, when we practice things like deep breathing and meditation and use the neurocycle and detox and get into this lifestyle of managing our mind, that overall is going to have a tremendous impact on your mental processing speed. So for example, in my app and my book, I have decompression activities, and I have mini neurocycles, and then I have the main program that's in the middle there, the main program, and then decompression activities, which are breathing exercises and meditation and so on. And then the mini neurocycles, which are little using the 5 steps in a quick way. Every time you do these things, this is directed neuroplasticity. So these systems that I've developed are all working towards your mental processing. Then another thing is really have an attitude of learning from your mistakes. So not seeing mistakes, as, oh gosh, I wish I never did that. It's shifting that around and saying, what can I learn from that? That is a massive, massive sort of hack to improving mental processing speed. Because when we ruminate and get mad at ourselves and frustrated at ourselves for making mistakes, that slows down our mental processing speed, kind of creates toxic waste. Think of a car trying to drive through on a road and there's a storm and the trees have fallen over and you can't navigate through the road because there's all this stuff in the road. That's kind of what we're doing when we get caught up in our mistakes. So instead of saying, oh no, I made another mistake, just allow yourself the frustration. Don't deny that. Let's not be toxic positivity. Let's not have a cognitive dissonance, but then move on and say, okay, what can I learn from this? And that shifts things dramatically. So when we analyze the mistakes we've made, when trying to make faster decisions and truly keep track of these mistakes, we can start storing up a wealth of memories. I mean, this is an amazing tool. You can store up a wealth of memories to help you to actually manage to improve mental processing speed. So looking at a mistake as a learning experience and actually tracking that and keeping a journal of what did I learn? Okay, I did this, what did I learn? You're building up a wealth of healthy memories inside a nice healthy tree, building into your brain and into the biofield of your mind and into the cells of your body. So the next time that you make a mistake or the next time that you feel your concentration going off or your processing speed dropping, there's this wonderful boost that will happen from the non-conscious mind to the conscious mind of these mistakes that you've made built into these networks being like this resilient factor that then moves into your conscious mind to help you to process more efficiently and to improve your learning speed. So the point that I've just made connects closely to a study that was conducted by research at Heidelberg University. The study was measuring if our mental speed declines with age. But fortunately, it found that our mental speed actually stays where it is until people reach age 60. And that doesn't mean that our brain can't improve after 60. What the study was showing us is that the way you use your brain with your mind is going to basically direct how efficiently you constantly continue to improve your mental processing speed. So the normal ups and downs of life where it goes up and down can stay that pattern, and you can get back from a down quicker the more you practice these things that I'm telling you, being very deliberate and intentional about directed neuroplasticity, brain building, detoxing your brain, doing the breathing, the meditation, living these lifestyles of, using your mistakes as learning, writing that down, but all these things. As you live lifestyles like this, you can, those waves don't have to be huge like dips. They actually get sort of smaller waves like this, and we bounce back quicker as we age. You see, our brain actually gets better with age, not worse, but that all depends on how you use it. So if you don't use your brain, your mind is what, you with your mind is this energy that enables you to process the world into your brain and use your brain to do that. The way you do that is so important. And so if we don't use our brain well, then the decline will happen and the processing speed will drop off. So when we train our brain to improve its memory, which is all the things I teach you, and to take mistakes as learning opportunities, you can actually you can actually improve your processing speed as you get older. And that starts when you're young. It doesn't mean you wait until you're 60 to do this. You do this from as young as possible. And that's why I'm such an advocate of teaching our children from very young how to do all these different things that I'm telling you, detoxing and managing your mental health and managing your mind and building your brain and having these mindsets like seeing a mistake as a learning opportunity. Okay, so now this is part 1 of processing speed. And next week, I'm going to be talking about part 2 of processing speed, where I'm going to really dive into a deep understanding of the unconscious and the conscious mind and the subconscious mind and how that works and how the concept of self-regulation can really help you. So don't forget to listen and watch next week's podcast. Thank you for joining me today.